So we're going to go part through the agenda now, so item 3.1. The Cambridgeshire People Economic Review. I'm sure that I know all the members have seen this, I'm sure virtually everyone in the room has seen this review. Before this is introduced, I will propose amendments to the recommendations. Copies of the amendment are available. Okay. I'm proposing that the combined authority should submit a formal response to the consultation on the draft report and that it receive further report and our formal response, which will come back to the board as a public report in July. Is that agreed? Thank you very much. So, Harriet Fear is our Interim Director for Business and Skills. Welcome to the table, Harriet. And you will please introduce the report.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Yes, so the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Independent Economic Review. Work started on that in the autumn of last year, and the work is being undertaken by an independent economic commission. I think it's fair to say that the combined authority's view about this review is that it marks a major milestone, both for the combined authority and also, importantly, for the region. It really is the first iteration of what we see as the most thorough and in-depth review ever undertaken for our area. And importantly, and perhaps vitally, it will be the bedrock for our local industrial strategy, which we are expected to deliver to government in the spring of next year. So really the Independent Economic Review is the tool that will allow us to shape our asks to government in the future, as well as looking at future development budgets and those sort of important things. In terms of the Independent Economic Commission, it's made up of 12 key opinion leaders, I think it's fair to say. Some are from within the region, people like David Cleveley, serial entrepreneur, and John Shropshire, OBE, who is obviously very well known within the farming community. But also, really importantly, there are people from outside of our area who are bringing, some might say, an even fresher perspective to what our region has to offer. So the commission is chaired by Dame Kate Barker, who I think is renowned as one of the leading economists in the UK. So the interim review is based on the Commission's consideration of a wide range of views and data that they've been collecting since the autumn of last year. In terms of who they've been engaging with, they've met with all the councils, spent some time with the Mayor as well, and have taken into account submissions of evidence from businesses and from academia and other key stakeholders. Really importantly, the economic models that they're using are really best in class. University of Cambridge has created them, and we've had feedback from national government that actually this is pioneering activity, and we are well ahead of the curve in terms of the type of undertaking we're taking forward. So internationally renowned tools are being used for this review, it's fair to say. So the findings of the report, the independent review is, the interim one is already in the public domain. There are a couple of particular points that the board will want to be aware of. If we look at our region as a whole, the findings of the Independent Economic Review interim report, and I must stress it is interim at the moment, it's launched on the 9th of May, shows that there's at least 1% growth, which is higher across our region than current ONS, Office for National Statistics, show. So that's interesting, and the Combined Authority at Management Board level is working with ONS statisticians to look at those figures to make sure that they're accurate, because obviously that's vital. But it shows that across the region, the growth is, let's say, at least 1% higher than ONS current statistics. The other thing that's important to mention is the Independent Economic Review recognises that this is one region. However, it makes it very clear that in its view, there are 3 distinct geographies within it. One being Cambridge, there being Peterborough, and the third being the rural areas, and in particular the Fens. And so one of the things that is likely to come out of the final report is a very strong recognition of that, a strong recognition of the fact it's one region, but actually in terms of the tools and the activities that the Combined Authority might consider taking forward, we need to be cognizant of the fact that those 3 regions are all very different and will require different types of support. Looking at the initial review, there are a number of initiatives which the Combined Authority has been piloting and championing over the last year, and it's fantastic to see that these are recognised within the interim review. So, for example, the University of Peterborough, the work that we're doing on master plans for market towns, and big ticket issues like the Mayor's championing of the Metro. So in terms of what happens next, we're in the Independent Economic Commission is in its next phase of consultation. They'll be meeting all the council leaders again and the mayor as well. They'll be discussing issues with businesses and academia. They've raised 13 key questions in their interim report, all of which need to be addressed in the final report. So there's a significant amount of research and work that still needs to be done. The report is due to launch in early September, and this report that we're bringing to the board today asks for 3 specific things. The first is to ask that the board welcomes the publication of the interim report as the first stage of this major programme. The second is that we ask the board to consider and provide any comments on the headline findings and the assertions of the report. And third, it would be very helpful if we could look at agreeing the principles by which the final independent economic report should be used to engage partners to help us carve out our local industrial strategy. And with that in mind, the Combined Authority has a set of recommendations about the organisations that we'd like to confer with to help create our independent local industrial strategy in the autumn. So that is detailed in the paper. It's engagement, crucially, with businesses and academia, really importantly with central government, obviously with a range of services, the health, police and fire sector leaders, and also very important, something that national government holds very dear to its heart, the need for us to engage with other economic geographies, not least the Cambridge, Milton Keynes, Oxford corridor, but also, as the Mayor pointed out in a recent meeting, where we sit, we look north, south, east and west. So to make sure that we are supportive of other local industrial strategies and collaborative ones where appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Any points, please? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. In your, just the last bit there, where you were talking about the importance of engagement, you didn't reference local authority engagement. I hope you are, there's going to be a mechanism for each of our local authorities to be put into, because actually we're very aware of the microeconomies going on in our areas, which I think is the detail that you haven't got to yet. But particularly in South Cambridgeshire, we run the whole gamut from still very agriculturally focused and heavy industry, manufacturing industry, out where I am on the Bedfordshire border, up to the high-tech stuff at Cambridge. So I think there's some microeconomies there that will be of interest to you. So I do hope there's a means of us communicating that to you.
Yes, absolutely. My colleagues, I should have made that clear. Yes, that's it. There are a number of stakeholders, but absolutely the local authorities will be. Well, I have the assurances of the Independent Economic Commission that everybody will be consulted again.
Councillor Lynch.
Yes, I congratulate Harriet on getting her report on 2 sides of one paper. Perhaps we could all learn from that. I'll take up with Harriet privately. I don't think enough work was done on our right to work areas of Greenborough in council, outside Peterborough, Holland, Cascade, Rutland and so on. But she assures me that work is going on. It's very important to be able to say where our skills come from.
Councillor Herbert.
Just a few comments. I think, I think it's a great piece of work. I don't think our economy has been characterised and analysed sufficiently. I agree with the one region but the 3 sub-regions analysis. That also needs to support what we do on connectivity, as you've said, on inclusive growth, because it's more challenging to bring forward development in areas including where we're sitting. So we've been meeting about how do we help Fenland, because the great opportunity is already underway. But what the report also says is that the range of growth figures is just as strong away from Cambridge as a percentage of the current economy, but there's more that can be done. I'm particularly interested, Harry, in the next phase, that there's obviously a need to link with the strategic spatial plan in terms of the generation of district-based economic data in terms of projected jobs, and I know that there's been quite a lot of work done on this, so I just certainly, in addition to getting responses into the questions that have been asked at the end of the report, I just think it's quite critical for the Combined Authority to have job projections forward to 2031, 2041, and maybe sketchy for 2051, because I think what's coming through here is really district-based economic analysis. It's a fundamentally impressive model underneath it. And in addition, I think it's quite critical to match that also to ability to afford housing. So what is the income in different parts of our geography that is needed to enable people to buy or even to rent on the open market, and thereby identify the gap on the social rent. So I think that is possible, but I do think that having that economic projection is critical, because that then feeds into, well, how many homes, how much infrastructure investment, and then choices that need to be made beyond the current local plans about where those homes will be. Because in terms of geography, the building land in Cambridge is pretty well exhausted, and therefore for the whole region to benefit from the continued growth of the knowledge industries, as well as dispersing employment, means that we do need to look at the strategic sites across our geography for where the housing is going to be, if we're going to get the sustainable growth that this report talks about.
Thank you. So sitting under the Independent Economic Commission is a management board, and I sit on that management board. And so we've mapped out all of the pieces of research that we still need to do and all the gaps that still need to be filled. And one of those pieces of work speaks exactly to that, Lewis. It's to look at across the whole of the region, what are the incomes, particularly of young people under 25, and therefore what houses could they potentially afford. The Mayor's already talked about affordable housing needing to be affordable, so we're doing a significant piece of work within the combined authority, looking at who can afford a starter home of £250,000 or not, as the case may be. And we'll feed that into the Independent Economic Commission.
I'm just going to come back on the affordable thing and I'll move house to council. Ultimately, we have to intervene at some stage to do something significant. If you are earning minimum wage in this country, you're earning 60,000. If you're a partner wants to buy a house, you've got virtually no chance at all in the north of Cambridge and the London side. And houses of 250,000 are not affordable to most young working people. I believe that we should be pushing developers, we should be pushing through our own policies to create houses for sale for £100,000 in Cambridgeshire, and I think that's eminently achievable. £100,000, any working couple can get 3 times their wage mortgage, and that opens money up to people who actually do the work to feed our economy. And I can't understand any matrix that says 80% of the market is affordable if your market is as accelerated as ours is, particularly anywhere south of the middle of the housing. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to concentrate on the 2 areas. Obviously, we'll get a chance to look at the full response and we'll be able to analyse their perhaps in draft as well as full. The 2 areas I want to concentrate on. The first one that Harry raised, which is the fact that the ONS mapping of growth does not agree with the localised figures, and it's something that we've known for many, many years. But as part of that work of recognising, and it's very nice in the desktop study, the ONS, there's crippling damage done to this area by the fact that the formulas for funding are based on wrong figures. The police, the health, the county council, all the district councils, all of us actually suffer every year that we deliver growth higher than that recognised in ONS figures. And it is a seriously large amount of money that needs to be addressed. So as part of the discussions that you have with ONS about how to improve their figures, there has to be an immediate recognition or by the board, pressure on government to adopt a new method that actually delivers the correct amount of funding on a sustainable basis in this area. If it doesn't, the chances of everybody remaining pro-growth, whether it be economic or housing growth, will diminish, because if you cannot deliver the quality of life to our residents that they have every right to expect, because of either a broken formula or formula based on incorrect figures, the attitudes will change, and they are starting to crack already. So I make a serious plea to the board to work hard with government, getting them to understand that. The second area I want to to concentrate on is that this area of three distinct economic geographies. No, I don't think many people will argue with that. I could have probably told you it without an evidence base before this work started. And where we are with the interim report at the moment is we've got a report on an evidence-backed basis for taking the work forward. Now, the next step will be utilising that evidence and perhaps with some modelling, trying some various different things. But it's what we attempt through the modelling, how much reliance we put on the modelling, what comes out, is very much generated by people's thoughts. So we can go into this engagement now, and I don't know where the board's position on this is. You know, there are three distinct economic geography areas. What do you do for each of one of those three distinct ones to get them to the best they can do? So if I take the things in East Cant, agriculture is posted as being their major industry, world leaders in agriculture, but the productivity band on agriculture is not the same productivity band on, for example, life sciences. So if we tackle this by saying, let's get their productivity up to here, and allow another area to have their productivity up to there, then the lifestyle and life outcomes of people in Bent and East Ham will remain lower than everywhere else. So that is not an acceptable outcome for me, despite the fact that there might be evidence-based and good form of money. So what we actually need to do is say, actually, how do we raise the whole area, including those that need the most help, the fastest? I have no doubt that the devolution deal where we will double GPA over a period of time will happen with our intervention, even if we model it slightly different ways, because the economy is so strong here and it's moving forward in the right direction already with our interventions coming forward that we're going to manage that. The most important thing for me is the inclusiveness of driving forward that growth. And I've got to say that growth without increasing productivity, particularly for those areas that are low, doesn't do it for me. So realistically, it's not about the evidence base, nobody's arguing about that. It's how they pose their questions and what they're looking for as answers to come out of those questions. That's the area where I'm hoping to see aligned thoughts with mine. And if not, I might have to say, you know, it's a great report, but I can't support it because it doesn't match what I want to come out of this. And we'll see when it comes forward, but hopefully we'll get somewhere where we're all aligned.
Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it comes back to, and I agree with many of the points which have been raised by Councillor Cant, because I think rightfully this combined authority is here to try and expedite growth, to improve economic benefits to its existing residents, future and indeed UK PLC. But actually the services, the public services that wrap around that, every time a house is built, we know it doesn't cover the costs of the public services that are required to support that. And I think we do need to address that as part of the overall package, and I know you've been talking about that as well, Mayor. And I think it does sort of bring into focus the importance of that going forwards. Because 100,000 new houses has a significant impact on public service right the way through the board. And the council tax on its own is not enough to cover that increase in demand. So I'd welcome some additional work around that as a totality of an overview. Thank you.
I have no further speakers. I'd just like to add, I think what this report does so far is underline with some clarity actually the situation as facing. Now, there are worse problems to have than having a very strong economy. Don't get me wrong, if I was to talk to my mayors in other parts of the country, they would love to have this problem. But it does create a problem. It does create a problem that in order to sustain the incredible strength of our economy, and I think it's very exciting actually that the strength of the economy is whole Cambridgeshire rather than part of Cambridgeshire. But in order to sustain that, we have to implement the infrastructure and then the housing necessary to feed what has come upon us. And ultimately, whilst I hear talking in the press and in Cheshire classes perhaps of, oh, let's just pause, I'm afraid the ability to pause the economy in Cambridgeshire is beyond beyond the remit of elected officials. The economy is strong here because the people who live in here, live in our area, are so incredibly productive. they deserve, of course, is high quality housing they can afford to live in, open space, world-class public transport. And of course what this report does is it feeds into every aspect of what we're trying to achieve as a combined authority. I'm happy to propose from the chair. Do I have a second? Councillor Holditch, those in favour? Thank you. The next item on the agenda is item 3.2, the mayoral interim strategy, transport strategy statement. I'm going to ask Martin Whiteley, Chief Executive, to introduce this item. I then invite Councillors Lewis and Smith, who have asked to move an amendment to the recommendations. Copies of the amendment are available to the board and to the public. Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. So in February 2017, responsibility for local transport planning transferred to the Combined Authority, and the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority became responsible for the local transport plan and was deemed to be responsible as and deemed as the local transport authority for the area. So that made quite clear where the responsibility for local transport planning sits in our area. And in order to deliver against that, the Combined Authority, complying with its statutory duty, established an interim local transport plan, which was by necessity an amalgamation of the individual local transport plans that had been previously produced by Cambridgeshire County Council and the City Council. However, while that serves the purpose that we need for the time being, while the full and new version of the local transport plan is developed, it doesn't align with the bolder transport aspirations that we have for this area and that have been discussed at various points. So the purpose of the mayoral interim transport strategy statement is to both guide the development of the new local transport plan, which we expect will be completed by the spring of next year, and secondly, to provide clear direction to transport projects that are either underway or soon to be developed. So by creating that clarity of direction, what we expect is that we will be able to ensure that all the schemes that we're proposing will be consistent within a single strategic framework, and that they will also be supportive of the new local transport plan as it emerges. That will improve our decision making, helps us to accelerate delivery, and indeed ensure that even in the short term as well as the long term, that we can demonstrate that we're presenting value for money for all of our investments into transport and infrastructure. At the centrepiece of the statement about our future transport, and set out in here, is the clear ambition to create a world-class public transport system. And that world-class public transport system is essentially founded on a number of key points. The first being that we will make a transport system so good that it will become the system of choice for all of our users. So they will be able to access it, they will be able to use it and go about both their work and both their leisure business in a way which becomes their point of choice. The flip side of this is that they will not need to rely on the car, because we will have created a system that allows us to design out the car from short-term commuter and leisure journeys. Now that is a bold undertaking to aim to achieve, but it is an undertaking that if we join up and coordinate a number of opportunities that exist to us through our planning, through the technologies that are available today, not future technologies, but technologies that are available today, that is possible to achieve. So we have set in the paper some guiding principles that we will create a new transport plan that truly supports economic growth and opportunity across the entire Cambridgeshire and Peterborough area, connecting people to jobs and supporting people to move across freely from their place of home to their place of work, helping us to drive the economic agenda that has just been outlined in the previous discussion. We'll make sure that the system supports equity so that regardless of where you are in the region, you'll be able to access good quality transport and support all areas to be prosperous. We'll also want to ensure that we have a transport network that encourages active and sustainable travel choices such as walking and cycling. So we want a truly futuristic public transport system that will transform the network that we have today. And it is a real transformation of the current system. It's also a system that is truly integrated and that joins together different modes in a connected way that is designed from the outset in order to encourage people to behave in a different way and to incentivise people to use the system, especially for short and commuter journeys. So we envisage that what that translates into is a system which has at its heart the metro, which will allow us to move large numbers of people across the county and not into a central place, but to the places of employment, to the places of leisure that they wish to go to. It means that we will build the infrastructure that allows people to join the metro at key points rather than for the connecting systems to come into central points, principally our two core cities. And it means that we need to use our bus review to identify how we're going to connect those people who live in remote areas to also to be able to access into the futuristic transport system. So the emphasis is how do we make sure that we're connecting our new metro, our new ambitions for the rail service and heavy rail with the connectivity that exists and can be built around cycle, walkway and buses into an integrated system. That will provide more choice, expand access, make sure that we've got a system that can be relied upon and will improve our safety as we manage a whole network rather than individual components of it. We have started to think about how do we develop that programme, not around individual schemes, but around the key corridors for our area. And so the paper identifies what those corridors are, and indeed the individual transport schemes that sit within them. And I think it's become really key to understanding the way in which the individual schemes are integrated together so that they do provide that whole solution for those corridors, and that we are providing the opportunity for all people to access, understanding the data that we have about the use of those schemes now, but also our proposals about how people will use the schemes in the future, because that is different from the way in which people choose to use information and data now. We've looked critically at the timeframes that we can use to bring forward some of these major schemes. And as the Mayor has referred to earlier, of course, certainty over funding is one of the key points that to date has bedogged any major transport project. Now, the lack of certainty over funding has actually built in to the way in which we've gone about transport programmes, uncertainty and significant delay. And our assessment is that that uncertainty and delay can lead to anywhere of a minimum of 2 to 2.5 years delay in any transport project. Because there is no life cycle planning of the transport project, there is no management of the various stages across the life cycle of the project, and there is no concerted management of the supplier network in order to support the delivery of the schemes within the time frame. All of those things combine to provide us with an opportunity to rethink how a model transport scheme could be delivered. We've not landed on this position through a series of random thoughts. We've tested with the leading transport providers if we were given a fresh way of starting to deliver future transport projects with the right components and in the right frame, what would be possible. And the results are quite frankly startling in terms of the ability to accelerate delivery. So that leads us to a view that when we're assessing the transport projects that we have in front of us, that we should adopt a number of positions. The first is that we should consider them in relation to our long-term transport strategy. The second is that we should look at them in terms of the timeframes that we believe that they can be delivered in, with a fresh approach to thinking about the funding that's available to them, a different way of looking at how we manage the project through their life cycle, and therefore have a form of view about what is truly possible with an integrated solution in and across our corridors that we've identified. That combination of things leads us to a view that we might take some different decisions about what we should do in the short term. The reality is that we don't know yet whether we are taking the right decisions in the short term because we're not properly assessing our position against both the longer term and the ability to accelerate the delivery of our programmes. So that's why the paper proposes that we take a 2-month period or 8-week period now to be absolutely sure that we are taking the right decisions both in the long term and that we've got greater confidence about our ability to accelerate, so that we take decisions now that are consistent with that position and do indeed represent the best value for money. And that's what's set out in this paper. So it's not necessarily that we're going to reach a position that all the things that we're doing today are wrong or indeed shouldn't continue, but what we and I have to give to you as a board is the best advice that those are the right decisions that you're taking and that the investments that you're making are the right ones at the right time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Councillor Lewis, Councillor Herbert, you, sorry, I can't read very well. I wasn't sure whether you were introducing the amendment or
Well, I think we both would like to speak on it, Mayor. So, there are some critical issues at play here. As you said, the Cambridge and the wider Cambridgeshire economy isn't pausing, and the latest work by Cambridge Ahead shows that the jobs growth is still in the Greater Cambridge about 5% a year, which is a pretty phenomenal growth rate. And we clearly do have immediate issues in relation to both local plans and jobs. So in terms of where do I come from? Well, I think we do need to focus on seeking an agreement between the Combined Authority and the Greater Cambridge Partnership, including the member councils being the county, South Cambridgeshire and ourselves, about where we need to go. And I'm an enthusiastic supporter, like you, of the metro concept. Perhaps I don't word it in quite the same way, and that's why this amendment is proposed. So effectively what the amendment seeks to do is actually just to start with that evidence base, to ask you, Mayor, to come forward with your delivery plan in terms of timescale and funding for the CAM Metro, because I don't think without that it's easy to ask the Greater Cambridge Partnership to align its planning. And also just to be clearer about what the timing is and the coverage of the transport strategy. At the moment, the Combined Authority is pretty thin on resource on transport, and that's not been easy given that we're now over a year in. And we need to be much clearer about, well, exactly what that transport strategy is going to be covering. But to cut to the quick, in terms of a couple of the issues, which are particularly Mayor, detailed on page 472 and 473. I'm grateful for your statements about park and ride, but if we just actually look at the wording of the report that's in front of us and issues that do give us some trouble, it says after the bullet points, in the interim all current busway and park and ride plans must be paused. Now, I don't think that we should pause short-term proposals. If we look at the provision in Cambridge South, which you've been good enough to refer to, the proposal, which is a planning application for 279 parking spaces at Trumpington, is actually just a stopgap. It's a finger in the dike, given that 4,000 jobs are due to be added to that site. Given the opportunities of linking Babraham, which has got an 8% growth in usage, the county council taking off the parking charge, the opportunity for Babraham and Trumpington to be linked through that site by high quality bus service, that is essential until the bigger scheme comes along. So in terms of where you say, you're quite right to say what you said today, but that isn't actually what's in the report. And I would hope that we can be clear, and I do think that we just need to get on with that, including because we've got other parking rides which can be reviewed, but which are not physically in the right place. Madden Road, Newmarket Road, and the Babraham capacity all need looking at urgently, and also the impact of the A14 as that comes along. So I think the fundamental is we agree with you that there should be a joint strategy and that could be sorted out. But what I don't agree, and that's the purpose of this amendment in terms of clarification, is just pre-conditioning that discussion with the references on 472 and 473 about further work, because we've got local plans to deliver, we've got a rate of growth that we have to match. And in terms of characterisation of the Greater Cambridge Partnership, it just isn't true that we have rejected tunneling there. It's been clear from the work that was done by the Advanced Very Rapid Transit Scheme, for our wholehearted support of the work that's been done on Cam Metro, that we, from about last September, were transitioning the Turn busway to mass transit route, and we are looking at routes. While I'm speaking, if we go back to page 667 of the colour diagram, which very graphically states part of the ambition that you've got and that we fully support, it actually shows that we've got some limited choices in the green routes that have been indicated. And also, having travelled on the busway myself to St Ives this morning, the option that is either a busway or could be something else in the future. So it does show a route to Camborne, it shows a route out south-east, it shows a route up to Waterbeach. So a number of projects that the Greater Cambridge Partnership have been putting significant legwork into do align, but obviously we want to hear from you, given the progress that's been made since February on those routes, exactly how that works. At the end of the day, I could speak for a bit longer, but I won't. There's been a lot of work put into aligning. I've been at the meetings, there's been reports on that, and clearly what really matters is getting together over the next 2 months and coming up with an agreement. And I believe that at the heart of that is the 4 councils, well, the 3 councils and yourself. So yes, it matters that whatever is done in Greater Cambridge delivers for the rest of the geography. And I'm not here trying to hog any resources from the combined authority. We clearly need to have inclusive growth right across the geography for the future. But we do need to have an agreement between you with the County Council, South Cambridgeshire and ourselves. I'm committed to making that work, and I want you to make that commitment, and I'm sure you will.
Thank you. Councillor Swift, would you like to speak now?
I'll speak now, Conor. Thank you very much. So I'm a bit to say. So I'm supporting the amendment, but I'll not be able to support the recommendation should the amendment fall. Not because I want to play political games. I won't ever do that in this forum. And if anybody thinks that, please think otherwise. But because I actually think that this is a threat to South Cambridgeshire, which I represent. And the threats manifest as 3 risks. One is the risk of derailing the South Cambridgeshire and city local plans. The other is the financial risk, even though it says there are no financial implications in our paper. And the third is the risk of losing the confidence of the business sector. So in relation to the local plans, the city deal was established in order to ensure the delivery of South Cambs and the city's local plans, and the transport strategies underlying these plans, they are completely dependent on that. The financial risk is that we lose the second and third tranches of funding for the city deal. And that should be evidenced in this paper. If the Treasury and government see us squabbling like this and see pauses stopping delivery of well-delivered projects, then they're going to have no confidence in giving us a further £400 million. The risk of losing the confidence of the business sector was made very clear to me at a meeting that Lewis and I both attended last night, in which there were representatives, very, very senior representatives of the business sector and of the educational sector. They said that they currently have confidence in both the GCP and the combined authority to deliver, but that confidence is fragile. And the reason that I will not be able to support what is being proposed in the original document is that I think it will damage that confidence beyond repair, as it's giving out all the wrong messages about our ability to work together in the best interests of those communities. Businesses are, of course, interested in long-term strategies, but they're also interested in the now, and they're experiencing problems now, and they're having recruitment difficulties now, and their employees can't get to work now. So we have to demonstrate to them a commitment to be dealing with the now, and the Greater Cambridge Partnership have come a long way in the last 3 years to do that, and are on the cusp of delivery. So the guiding principles which Martin has eloquently outlined are entirely aligned with the guiding principles of the Greater Cambridge Partnership. So I'm finding it really hard to understand the need for this interim statement when actually we're all working to the same outcomes. So I have 2 questions. What evidence is there to justify this pause when assessed against the risks which I've outlined? And what actually will happen in the next 2 months? Will that time be used to find a better way for the 2 bodies to work together? Or will it be used to address what to me is the elephant in the room? And that's a distinct feeling that this is actually all about the combined authority doing a lep on the GCP and taking over control of it and its money. To remind you, this money was awarded to the Greater Cambridge area to deliver their local plans, to solve their current and future problems, and to grow their economy to the benefit of the whole of the combined authority area. Thank you very much.